Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. Could hardly say my words there. And it's episode 498. We've got a returning guest. I thought I would have him back because I thought we could cover some other areas that would be interesting to you listeners and viewers. And we've got Adrian Palmer back from Elegant Marketplace.
You're going to have to say that name again. I don't know.
What? Andrew?
We got Andrew and Adrian, and I feel like this is going to be a tough call.
And it probably is. So would you like to properly introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Andrew Palmer. Thank you, Jonathan. And, or should I say Dave? We are Elegant Marketplace.
I've been called a lot worse.
Elegant Marketplace is a WordPress and theme plugin marketplace established about 5 years ago, and I happen to run it. So that's it. That's who I am.
And I've got my great co-host, Adrian. Adrian, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian. I'm the CEO and founder of Groundhog. We help small businesses simplify, automate, and consolidate their sales and marketing.
And I just want to say over the past couple of months, our listener numbers have increased quite substantially. So welcome to the tribe, you new people that are watching and listening to us. Give us some feedback and hopefully you're enjoying the ride. So, Andrew, I thought I would have you back because I wanted to talk about a couple of things that we run out of time when we last had a chat. And basically one of those was, recently you sold your business that you've been running for a number of years. And I just wondered if we could discuss how hard it was to actually sell a WordPress business and how long it took. So how long have you been running Elegant Marketplace, and when did you decide that it was time for you to sell it?
February the 15th, 2015 was when it was established. And February 15th, 2015 was when we decided to sell it within 5 years. Oh. And we sold it on December the 31st, 2019. So I broke my promise. I was about 3 months early, January, February, 2 months early. So no, when I start a business, whether it's with partners or founders or whatever, it is always in the back of my mind, or even in the forefront of my mind, is that business going to be a saleable business? And over what period of time will I be able to sell this business? And it's generally, with brick and mortar business, it's generally within 5 years you want to sell your business, unless you're going to be, we're talking small businesses. Elegant Marketplace is still a small business. It's not a massive conglomerate turning over billions. And restaurants that I've had 3 restaurants, and I've always sold them within 5 years of establishing. One of them I sold within 9 months.
Wow.
Because we just made it grow, and then I wanted to do something else, and somebody said, I'll buy the restaurant. I said, okay, here it is.
Is the restaurant still around?
Yeah, and I'm still involved in it. I mean, I do, if you go to pizzadellamama.co.uk, the video voiceover and the video description of when somebody is making the pizza, that's me. So, it's, which I did last week, because it's a COVID related video to tell people how we are dealing with COVID and deliveries and collections and things like that. So yeah, I did the voiceover. I did the video. So yeah, I'm still involved in that one. The one in Spain, that was sold 20 years ago. The one in Devon, that was sold 25 years ago. So I think the one in Devon is still going, actually. It's like a fish restaurant. But the one in Spain is now split into 2 restaurants. So that's how big they were. It was quite a big restaurant. But I'm also, my agency work takes me into restaurant works. So I advise restaurants on menus and food and stuff like that. But back onto Elegant Marketplace, how easy was it to sell? It was actually far too easy.
Was it? Because normally I've sold 2 businesses in my lifetime. And they've been almost as painful selling them as starting.
Well, it did. I mean, I sold a printing business, and that was under distress because it was one of the partners died. So we had to sell it as a part of it was just
probate.
Continue, exactly. So if you're selling a business under distress, then that's pressure, because you need to get rid of it straight away because it can't be a going concern. You're not selling it actually as a going concern. If you're selling a business because somebody has asked you to sell that business to them,
no, well, yeah,
it's a piece of cake, really.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
Because
they want it.
They want it. If they want it, they want it. If they don't want it, they want it. And these guys approached me in Serbia. I think it was a couple of years ago, WordCamp. So I'm a WordCamp guy. I like going to these places. And, do you want a coffee, talk about selling Elegant Marketplace?
Well, that could have been the invitation. That could have gone a very different way, could it? It's,
I don't know. It's Eastern. It's not Eastern Europe anymore. But yeah, I get where you're going, Jonathan. Bad boy. But let me just turn I've got an indication there. I've still got my email on. And I said no. And then a year later in Berlin, again, I was approached by the same people, and I said, "Yeah, come on, then let's have a chat." And they're lovely. I mean, it was a fantastic experience. I really enjoyed it. There was a bit of stress, form filling, realizing the depth that you have to go into when you sell a business. That's pretty.
Especially a lot of passwords to change over.
Yeah, for sure. Which it's not yet done. It's not all yet done because
the paperwork is like the easy part. Then you have to do with you have to deal with all of the small logistical stuff.
Yeah. And that's still ongoing, Adrian. I mean, it's quite funny because I'm still running Elegant Marketplace. There's nothing.
So if you hadn't got that, you said your plan was to sell the business in 5 years. If you hadn't had this legitimate offer, in trade offer, as I would encapsulate it as, what was your plan? Was you looking at maybe using a business broker, or was you just going to send out a lot of feelers through the WordPress community, or both?
Really difficult to answer on that one because I was probably asked once a month whether or not I'd like to sell the business. So that's a tough one. I don't know. I can't really answer that on Elegant Marketplace. I can muse about it. I can say that I would probably have gone to a Flipper type website and seen what the value of it was, and had it valued for other reasons, insurance or anything like that. But the difficulty is it's a vendor marketplace. It was always built as a community marketplace. So to help the vendors earn money rather than us, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And it grew, it grew so much that we actually earned money from it, which was great. It was a real bonus because we had other businesses as well. We thought, well, okay, this is actually going to go somewhere. And we realized that after about 18 months where we hadn't taken any money out at all. And then we thought, well, do you know what? There's money in the pot. We can start actually paying ourselves a dividend and we can invest back in the business. The deal was always that 60% of the profit was always divided between whoever the founders were left at the time, and 40% was always pumped back into the business. So in advertising or in development or hosting and improving. And we set off on a shared hosting platform, and then we went on to our own VPS, and now we're on a massive VPS at InMotion Hosting, who eventually bought us. So I never really thought about offering it for sale because we were always being approached for it.
You were fortunate in that you had a choice of buyers.
We did actually, and I said no to every single one of them, including the people that did buy it. It was not the sale wasn't necessary. Like I said, It wasn't a distress sale. I didn't need to sell it. It was earning enough money for the vendors. It was earning enough money for us. And I had my British agency that I've got anyway. And I Page Builder Cloud and Layouts Cloud and things like that, So there's all sorts of things which were complementary to each other. So it was difficult, but I would have said that I would go, if I was going to sell a website, I'd have a look at somewhere like flipper.com, see what things are going for. They tend to overvalue websites in my view. You really want to go to a proper accountant and say, how much is this worth? Is it 3 times net or is it 3 times gross or whatever it is?
And what a lot of people also, I'm sorry to interrupt, I just want to see if you agree with this. Also, a lot of people, in my experience, they don't get their paperwork, they don't get their accounts in order, because you need a good profit and loss and you need about 3. No, some people would say 5 years, but I think that's pushing it. But I think you need at least 3 years good accounting records with proper profit and loss documentation. What do you reckon?
Definitely. I mean, it was a beautiful process. You know, it was a chat. I filled in a form. They expressed an interest. Letter of intent.
Mm-hmm.
On letter of intent, everything got given to them. So 5 years accounts because we had them, and even projections. You know, they asked for projections. They helped us with the projections as well, based on whatever, and they're very experienced in the web world, so they know about MMR and whatever it is, and annual recurring revenue and all that kind of stuff. But I think they were more interested in this instance. They were just more interested in having a marketplace to sell assets that they're going to buy in the future, which is what's happening, as well as, you know, do deals with hosting and other hosting companies and all that kind of stuff, because they own BoldGrid, which is basically a page builder that's out to other hosts as well. You know, it's just self-installed, and they've got 650,000 users on that. They own W3 Total Cash. They've just bought Sprout Invoices.
They were the people that bought Sprout as well.
Yes, so we now sell that on Elegant Marketplace as well. So, you know, WeForms is coming soon, and, you know, special deals and in plugin upgrades and all that kind of stuff is coming to Elegant Marketplace.
So your buyers are really putting together the infrastructure that they need for global domination.
Exactly right. Well, I could only take it so far because I play far too much golf. You know, so you got to think. You know, it's my birthday this week. Next week.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
It was my birthday last week.
Oh, was it? Happy birthday, Adrian. Yeah, you're probably half my age. I'm quite happy to say how old I am. I'm 60 next Tuesday.
All right.
So I need to be able to think about. I just want to play golf, really. You know, that's I want to eat and I want to play golf. So there's other thing. You know, I've got other businesses, and they're, you know, the short answer, really, Jonathan and Adrian, is that every business that you build should always be for sale. There might not necessarily be a price tag on there, but you should always talk.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Sorry, go on, Adrian.
I was about to say, I went to go see a guy named Dan Martell. I'm not sure if you're familiar. He's a big kind of coach, business professional in the SaaS industry, and he helps SaaS businesses specifically, like, get ready for investment and exit and all of that stuff. And whenever you're starting a new business, it should always be with, like, you know, that the exit at the end of the tunnel in mind, and when you're building it. And I'd love to know what specifically kind of the pillars that you have in place to make sure that are in a business to ensure that the exit, when you eventually get the call that says, hey, I want to buy your business, and you're ready to sell that business, that you have all of those things in place.
Yeah, the pillars are good accounts. So I've always employed professional accountants. Yeah. So many businesses have a bookkeeper, and it's your auntie or your mother or your uncle or your friend down the road or your best mate that's just done a bookkeeping course. Doesn't work. You need an accountant, and you need to pay them, and it's painful, you know, because good accountants are not cheap.
My accountant just asked for more money.
my accountant just did the same. I mean, but I sold a business. What are you doing? You don't even have to touch that one. He said, well, you know, it's tough times out there. But and I also just referred 3 clients to them. But anyway, accountants will charge what they charge, but that's negligible to what they save you in running business expenses, claiming this, claiming that, VAT,
taxes.
Taxes. It's not all about taxes. What you've got to do is make sure that you pay the right amount of tax. It's not about avoiding tax, because if you pay the right amount of tax on your earnings, you know that you're safe from any kind of investigation. And the tax man will investigate you in a heartbeat. And what you have to remember is that they have an unlimited budget. And even if they're coming after you for $50, they'll spend $5 million getting you, because just don't do it. You know, so you always make sure your books are dead straight, your tax payments are up to date. And we've got a very strict taxation system in the UK, you know, and it's I don't.
They're charming
whatever
people. They're such charming people to deal with.
Yeah, whatever. Well, because they've never run a business. You know, that's the key. They don't know. They say, "Oh, what you telling me? You haven't saved up for your corporation tax?" Well, no. You know, we're running a business here. You know, have you ever heard of cash flow and stuff like that? So, you know, it's stuff I do save up, but it's that kind of a question that they ask you. But it's because a tax inspector generally has never had their own business, so they don't understand the stresses and the strains. And that's why you need an accountant, because every £100 you earn or $100 you earn in the UK, if you're over a certain level, you've got to put $40 away for tax. And then you have a thing called national insurance, which is basically 6 to 11% of your salaries that you're paying out to people. And you've got all your infrastructure. So you have to make sure that you're running the business. It's no good earning $100 and spending $100. And I know this sounds stupid, but I really know people that do that. You know.
Well, I actually don't know how a small business that's brick and mortar actually runs in the UK now with VAT, which is 20%, I think now, isn't it? And plus,
yeah, but it doesn't matter, because if you buy, the ones that have difficulties are restaurants, because there's no VAT when they buy the food because it's raw.
Oh.
So VAT is exactly as it says. It's value added tax. So as soon as you do something, so a piece of paper, when I buy that piece of paper, no VAT, right? If I have printed on the top notes, that means it's a notepad. Therefore, I can add to it by writing on it. So there's VAT on that notepad, on that printed notepad. It's crazy. So there's all sorts of different things. Folders, you know, so that you keep stuff in. VAT, because you can add to them. So it's value added tax. It's really quite a simple process. But restaurants then have to charge VAT to their customers on food. If it's hot food, takeout food, and even inside. So they are the unpaid tax collectors for the government, because they're not paying any VAT, so they can't claim anything back. But that 20% of their turnover, so if they're doing 100 grand a month, 20 grand of that, straight to the government.
Yeah, that's the thing. So also, you know, you're still running the marketplace business. So what was that? So how long have you had to sign up, if you're prepared to say that? You know, did you have to be flexible, or was that part of the agreement, how long you were going to stay on? And
I haven't. There's no end date.
Right.
They'll get sick of me one day, but there's no reason for me not to. So what happens is that when you come into a business, or when somebody buys your business, they don't know anything about the business really. They can have a good overview of it, but they don't know the vendors, they don't know the customers, they don't know the support systems and all that kind of stuff. So there's a transition period, and during that transition period, stuff is taken off your hands, and then. So, for instance, now the technical stuff of the site, nothing to do with me at all. Support I'll stop doing support or answering support tickets probably in October. That's the aim. And other stuff that we're doing, so your role diminishes in the nicest possible way, just gradually diminishes. And then on a certain date that you've agreed to, it's see ya. Or actually, would you like to stay and we'll carry on and we'll do this and we'll do this and you can do this and whatever it may be. So there is no finite, there is a date, but it's not something that I'm prepared to announce, but it's certainly, it's a flexible date if I'm happy to carry on. That's the key. Mm. And this is why it's so lovely being bought by these people.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to ask you how much you got, because that's your business, but but was it a cash purchase? It wasn't a combination of cash and shares. It was
all cash.
All right. Yeah. One of the things I like you also get a lot of people that's financed by the business owner, and I think that's a terrible idea, unless the person that buying the business is going to put a substantial deposit that's non-returnable. Can you give? Would you? In the end, would you have looked at that, or do you think that's such a thorn of nettles that you would avoid it like the plague?
Well, you can do. you can do one of two things, or three. You know, you can do a number of things. So here's an amount of cash, and that's it, and see ya. Which I've done on a deal soon to happen on a couple of things that I've got, and that will be all cash and see ya. This one was an initial payment, then a secondary payment within 6 months, and then a third and final payment within 18 months. I've got no problem discussing that deal. That's not that confidential. And guess who structured that deal?
You? Or,
Me.
Yeah.
Me. Wasn't the company that buying me. I said, this is what I want to do, and this is how we're going to do it.
And you could do that. I just wanted, because this isn't often discussed in the WordPress, because I thought this would be a good discussion. You might have done that, I guess, maybe for tax reasons, because there can be some tax reasons for that.
Because you don't want everything arriving at the same time, because you want it in different tax years. So maybe I've had a great year this last year, and a large amount of money arriving would then increase my tax situation. So what you've done is you've stage paid it, basically. So that's that, and I've got no issue discussing that. It's stage payments, and it was decided by me what those amounts would be and when they would arrive, to help me in my.
And you're still involved. I think what the arrangement that I initially outlined, one of the problems is, I think, taking stage payments or the business owner financed, as long as you're actively to some degree involved with the business. I think when it falls down, unless like they're going to give you like a 40% deposit, is when you're not involved and they can run the business down.
Yeah,
and then you're left with a mess, basically, aren't you?
Yeah, well, this isn't one of those. This is not a stage payment on performance situation, because that's not the way I sell businesses, because the business was performing well anyway, so there's no point. So if it performs even better, that's great. You know, you've bought it on the basis of this, and if it performs better, brilliant, you got a bargain. But if it doesn't, then that makes no difference to the final payments, because that's the price. The reason it's staged is because I wanted it to be staged. So, and as I say, the two businesses that I'm selling very soon, that will be one payment, and that's it. See ya.
We're going to go for our break. We're coming back. I'm going to be discussing the world of Divi a little bit, about Elementor, how Andrew sees the kind of world of page builders going in the next year. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. We've had an interesting discussion. I could see Adrian was listening quite intently about our discussion, which she should be. If anybody is trying to build something in the WordPress world, you should always at the beginning think about the end. But just to kind of finish off our discussion in the first half of the show, is that I also feel if you run out of ideas about how to grow the business, there's only one alternative: the business will start to decline. So when I think you run out of ideas, that's the time where you should consider about selling it.
I totally agree with you, because, and again, let's use the restaurant analogy. When you run out of menu ideas, when you've fed up of foraging for your mushrooms and stuff like that, you just want to say, do you know what? It's time for another chef to come, and they may be able to regain that Michelin star. And it's the same with any business, because if the business owner is getting tired or fed up or bored, or staff have left and your staff retention is suffering, maybe it's time to think about what you want to do with your life. Because I've always worked to live, right? I've never lived to work. I've worked hard. There's no doubt about it. You can see the ravages, but I have worked hard, but it's just...
You look reasonably relaxed. You look reasonably relaxed.
I'm pretty good, but I've had a very adventurous working history. So it's pretty cool. I've done a good few things, but you've always got to just make sure that you retain your interest in the business. As soon as you get bored with it, it's time to go, because that business will
because
start finding.
because most people don't realise to keep something static is practically impossible. Either it's going forward or it's going to go backwards. The idea that you can keep it static and stable is slightly delusionary, isn't it? I feel. What do you think?
I think so. I think you've always got to think about growth. Even if you're growing one customer a month or one customer a year or 10 customers a month, you know, you can't think, I think a lot of companies want to grow too quickly as well. And that has its own issues.
Yeah, that's got its own issues, hasn't it?
Got some cash flow issues and all that kind of stuff. You've got to finance it. And then all of a sudden you find out one of your support guys goes off ill, you know, if we're talking about our area now. So you've got to watch how quickly you grow. So it's a planned approach. And this is what I think about businesses and all these lovely little businesses that are coming up. And people think, right, I'm starting a business and it's going to be a web design business. And I haven't got any contracts. I haven't got any way to get the content. And I haven't got, I don't want to pay a subscription to Photoshop. And how do I do that? So they're all in the Facebook group saying, I want to do everything on the cheap. And if you start off with no investment financially in your business,
there's no incentive to succeed.
There is no incentive to succeed. You're a very wise man, Adrian. You know, there is no incentive to succeed. So, you know, put your hand in your pocket, invest in your business, invest some time, invest a good enough amount of money, go and see an accountant and an attorney and a lawyer or whatever. Make sure that you start with a good grounding.
It's actually so I right before coming on this call, I got a question into my support channel, and it was a pre-sales question that says, you know, all of your plans are too expensive. I don't want to pay this much. And I'm not, basically all that says is that I'm not willing to invest in like the least expensive marketing automation solution currently available. And it's like, how can you expect to move the needle on anything without any kind of investment? Because when you invest in something, it's basically just lighting a fire under your ass, and let's get the ball rolling.
It is, because you've spent that money. Now you got to do something with it.
Exactly, right? You spent that money. It's like, shit, well, if I don't make money, I'm not going to eat tomorrow.
And I have been there, believe it or not. I literally have been there. There's a photograph of me with holes in my shoes, and the hole in my shoe is there, and there's cardboard there. And a friend of mine took it in a garden. It was hacking down with rain. I was smoking a cigarette, looking totally depressed. And he took it because he saw my foot up, crossed legs and everything, the hole in my shoe. And you could see the cardboard in my shoe to stop the water coming through the bottom of my shoe. So I have been there. So
when was this? How long ago was this?
This was, I can remember, it was probably about 22 years ago.
So that would be like what, 96, 97?
Yeah, 96, 97. Yeah. Well, 98. No, it was 98 because I went through 2 recessions. So, and I was in printing. Man, it hit us hard. I mean, and the 98. So there's 88 recession, 98 recession, and 2008. So I've actually been through 3 recessions and survived most of them. But one of them, I didn't go broke. I was just broke. So I just had no money, no income, pretty much nowhere to live, and holes in my shoes. So, you can. So I know the other.
Here we are, a million businesses later.
A few businesses later, none of which have ever gone bust, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
So you established your kind of niche in the Divi world. We've had some interesting developments in the page building sector recently. Elementor has reached over 6 million active users. That's the free and obviously the pro version. They've had a substantial amount of VC money invested in the business, which they announced a couple of months ago as well. With the juggernaut of Elementor, and then Matt Marek, had an interview at the Spanish WordCamp about a week ago where he was extremely, probably people would disagree what I'm about to say, but he seemed very dismissive of the page builders. Basically, his position was that as Gutenberg matured, the oxygen that allowed page builders to exist would be removed, and unless they adopted the Gutenberg way, they would disappear. How do you see things, Andrew?
I think he's right.
Oh, you think he's right, do you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they're not going to be, page builders won't be, and it's not going to happen overnight, Jonathan and Adrian, but I think he's right. I had a long chat. I had a long chat with him. I had 15 minutes with him in the US when I was just, or was it Berlin? No, it's Berlin. When I just developed Page Builder Cloud with Sean, and told him what we were doing with it, and the fact that it stores Gutenberg layouts as well, and also Sean is working on a translator from any page builder to Gutenberg. And when I said, we're working on this translator to go from any page builder straight into Gutenberg, his eyes lit up and went,
"Oh, really did."
I like that, But it's not. I don't think he's got anything against page builders per se. But because some of them are very code heavy, Divi is when I first started using Divi, it was 1.8 megabyte installation file. It's now an 8.9 megabyte installation file. So we can kind of see how it's increased, and the CSS in it is just phenomenally massive, and that's why they've got built-in inline CSS caching and stuff into Divi. They've now announced recently in the last couple of days that they're doing specialist Divi hosting with Pressable, who are part of Automatic. They're doing it with SiteGround, and the prices aren't any different, and it's managed hosting, and they're also doing it with Flywheel. So they're saying you got to have, what they're basically saying is you got to have specialist Divi hosting. Yeah. And here's our partners, and it was connected to your API, and you won't get a special deal, but at least these people are embedded in Divi. What I think, and I'm no seer, but what I think Divi, Elementor, maybe not Beaver Builder, because that's more of a development tool. I've always seen Beaver Builder as a developer's page builder rather than Divi and Elementor. Elementor's a DIY and Divi, I think, is a DIY as well. And the developer community is quite noisy in Divi, but it's very, very small. And I was part of that, so I know it's very small. But we're going to see intelligent website building with these page builders, which will be the Wix model. Wix are bringing out Extra. Extra is already there. It's developer friendly. I think within 24 months, we'll see a Divi that will be a cloud-based Divi. Breezy are already doing it, or Breezy are already doing a cloud-based page builder with sections that you'll pull and draw. And I put a joke in the Divi theme users group the other day saying, everybody just wants the sections to drag in. And, oh, by the way, they want the SEO built in and guaranteed #1 on Google, because that's what people want from page builders. They want everything. Give me everything. So you've got to think, because of Gutenberg, the page builders will actually become their own proprietary system.
I think that's
if they're going to survive, yes.
Well, it's not a question of surviving. I mean, Nick Roach is one.
Well, no, it's not. That was the wrong term, wasn't it?
He's one of the most intelligent people I've ever had the pleasure to meet and spend time with, and he's invested in other businesses. I won't show you, but they're the models that I've just said, and he's a very clever man, and very dedicated to his community as well. And and as are Yoni and Ben and all the people, and Hatan from Elementor. They are dedicated to their community, but they're in it for the money. Let's just jump over that hurdle. They're in it for the money. They wouldn't be in business, and they're making millions, these guys, and they've got access to millions and millions of dollars.
Well, that's I think it's around 17 million VC investment, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. They were pretty much well off anyway, and Nick does well. I think he's still the sole 100% owner of Elegant Themes, and he's 32 years old or something. Wow. How well has he done from that perspective? He's built a fantastic team around him. So they, with React and Gatsby JS and all that all the headless stuff that's coming out, and the Shopifys of this world that are just gone vertical, this past few weeks because of COVID and all that kind of stuff. I have no doubt, and I don't have any secret information or anything, but if they're not looking at going the Shopify, the Wix, the Squarespace route, they're missing a trick.
Yeah,
that's certainly the way I'm looking at it anyway.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Hopefully, Andrew can stay on for 10 minutes for some bonus discussion. But we'll wrap up the podcast part of the show. Andrew, what's the best way people can find out about yourself and what you're up to at the present moment?
Well, you can go on LinkedIn and just search Andrew Palmer. You'll find me. My ugly mug's there on a picture. And at Arnie Palmer is on Twitter. And it's not because of the golf, but it is because of the golf, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. Adrian, how can people find out what you're up to and the best way to contact you and that?
You can go to groundhog2gs.io where you can pick up a copy of our free plugin, and we're going to help you automate your sales and marketing.
Right. And I want to announce me and Spencer Forum, we're doing a webinar on Tuesday, the 2nd of June at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be totally free, and it's going to be about how to utilize Elementor, WooCommerce, and his own product to build fantastic funnels. We're going to spend hours showing you how to build funnels that beat the best of the best. All you have to do is go to the WordPress, the WP-Tonic website, go to the top navigation, and it'll be free webinar in the top navigation. Fill in a quick form, and you will be able to ask us any questions about building modern day funnels. We're probably even going to be talking about Groundhog as well in the webinar, but we will be covering a lot of content. And like I say, you will be if you join us live, you will be able to ask us questions, especially to Spencer, about how to build fantastic funnels. Like I say, that'll be on Tuesday, the 2nd of June at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We love you to join us. We'll be back next week with a great guest, a great discussion. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye. So basically, do you think Divi Elementor, their plan is basically to have fully hosted cloud-based solutions which compete with Gutenberg, basically, and that's what we're going to see in about 18 months' time?
I don't think they're good. I think Elementor are definitely thinking that way. You know, they led in the fact that they supplied layouts within Elementor free anyway, so that they kind of, it's kind of that anyway. You know, here's your layout, put it in. But I think Divi and Elementor, rather than compete, I think to take them, I'm falling slightly out of love with WordPress at the moment. There's too much, and this is Mark Maunder's fault from WordFence, because I'm signed up to his newsletter and I'm just seeing too much hacking going on. I'm seeing too many plugins being released that are not secure or insecure, and I'm seeing EasyJet losing 9 million datas in the UK, you know, 9 million or having 9 million people stealing their data. And I'm very concerned about web security currently and people's data. That's why we've got GDPR in the UK. That's why we've got the California and all this kind of stuff going on in America. And why companies like Termageddon are definitely needed for your privacy policies and stuff, because it's a dangerous area being on the web. The web is an open gate, right? So my door is open because I need to receive a website. The website's door is open because it gives me permission to see what's on that website. So there's always going to be vulnerabilities there. Where the Shopifys and the Etsy's and the Squarespaces win is that it's proprietary software, and they've got firewall after firewall after firewall after firewall. So they very rarely You know, they can get hacked, but do you know what? WordPress.
Yeah, well, they've also got the incentive not to say anything. It's a bit like the banking sector. You know, some people, I know some experts said if you really knew how often banks do get hacked, but they said they have no, apart from their legal obligations, they haven't really got no incentive to really talk about it, have they?
No, they haven't, but they will. They do, because of the security rules now that every government is putting in there. If you get hacked, you have to declare the fact that you've got hacked.
No, WordFence, you know, let's be brutally frank about it. Yeah, it's a great newsletter, but he has got, let's try and put this as diplomatically as possible.
Well, you don't need to. He's got an agenda. You know, he's
got a slight agenda to talk about because he's sending a security plugin.
No, of course, and I get that. I absolutely get that. But there are other free opportunities out there. I'm just falling slightly out of love with WordPress, in as much as there are some. You know, I don't like what.
Well, I don't think. I think your sense. I think your general sense is right on the button in a little bit, but I think other people were just annoyed at the kind of the slow progress at Gutenberg, and you know there was a lot of comment on the tavern about how this situation has affected themes and the whole theme building environment, and I think it has had a quite trying to find the right word here, detrimental effect on those that want to produce themes in a way.
No, I don't think that's true. But Adrian, go ahead. I'll tell you my reason after Adrian's spoken.
Sure. I was just gonna jump in and just touch on the lots of plugins are getting hacked and lots of new plugins are not secure and all that stuff. And yeah. I think with all of the availability, like the 100,000 or whatever, like, is it 54,000, something
60,000
like that?
it is.
60,000 now?
Yeah.
But the 60,000 plugins that are out there, I think the future, because if anyone is familiar with the way that Shopify extensions work, I think they have a really interesting infrastructure for the actual like technical aspect, and that every Shopify extension is actually its own individual software as a service application on their own infrastructure that is just tied into Shopify's API. And I think that's a really interesting way of setting up that infrastructure. And I think the future for WordPress plugins, especially because, you know, every single plugin you add now, you were saying Divi is like an 8.3 megabyte file, and, you know, pages take 5 to 6 seconds to load on shitty hosting.
They do.
I think the reckoning is going to come. It's like the plugins that move to a SaaS model where they just very much tied in with the WordPress REST API, but all of the functionality is hosted elsewhere on other infrastructure. I think the plugins that make that transition are the ones that are going to do really, really, really well.
Yep.
And as we're talking about Elementor and Divi, and everybody's going to probably move to a cloud-hosted platform, they're going to be able to take that 8.6 megabytes of whatever and offload it to somewhere else and do the headless thing to input the content into your WordPress website, which you can host relatively cheaply because it's going to be a super small installation.
Exactly, yeah. And I think I really appreciate you saying that. I think that's just the way it's going to be.
I think that's definitely the way that I want to take Groundhog in the future, is just move it all to just have a dedicated WordPress service, but just have the infrastructure elsewhere so that you don't necessarily need to worry about it being compromised and all of that good stuff.
Exactly, and that's the way that WP Feedback have gone. They're sort of like a cloud service now, and they're transitioning into the cloud service more. So you've got a tiny little connector, which is the plugin.
Yeah,
it's got nothing in it apart from this is where you go. You know,
click the connect button, the API and the OAuth does its thing. And,
Well, look at Jetpack. Jetpack is a connected service. WooCommerce is 100% going to go cloud.
Yeah,
100%, because
they got their WooCommerce payments thing going on now. And that's,
so it's got to. I think WordPress is going to change I think WordPress is literally going to become a framework for cloud services. That's the way it's going. So all you'll be having, you'll install a WordPress instance and it will be tiny, and then the connectors will be your extensions like they do on Shopify. And if people don't realize that that's how Shopify extensions work, but if they work that way, they're away from the eyes of the hackers. They can't even see them. which is great because all they're seeing is the functionality. They can't actually get into the code of that and hack into your site. But it's going to be progress. And on the slowness of the Gutenberg project, I don't get it. It's not slow. It's a major change for WordPress to go into the Gutenberg builder. You've got people like James Marsden, I think his name, Pootle Press, who is doing some phenomenal stuff. He's doing it. He's building a drag and drop builder for Gutenberg, properly drag and drop. So you can do layers, you can do all kinds of stuff on it. Gutenberg Hub, you can copy and paste sections and page layouts now for free for Gutenberg. So I think the people criticizing Gutenberg are the same developers that criticized page builders. So they're saying, I don't want a page builder. Great, that's fine. I was talking to a chap the other day, totally hand-coded, bootstrapped WordPress. Doesn't use a page builder, doesn't use a built-in CMS, it's just WordPress. So everything else is arranged with tables and a bit of CSS. Great, and the sites he's building are phenomenal. They're beautiful. You know, might use advanced custom fields maybe, but you know, that's about it. No page builders, no bloat. The sites are loading 900 milliseconds without any caching. Honestly, they're super, super fast. Then you've got Static. What are Static doing with the headless and with providing super fast websites now? Just basically converting your WordPress into an HTML website. You can't get into the WordPress website from those pages because it's not WordPress. So that's what the cloud solution will give you. Your web pages will be fed from the cloud. The actual WordPress, nobody will be able to get into because it's just not there.
If anybody's familiar with like ClickFunnels and the way that they have their infrastructure set up, while some of their software is, you know, leaves a little bit to be desired, at least the front-facing part of it is just basically the same as what Static is currently doing for WordPress. You build your pages on the back end, and it generates the HTML page, and then it's like loads in split seconds. So you know it does well on like Facebook ads and all of that good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I know, and speed. And I think Google will also be venturing into. Well, they've already got Google Sites, but certainly they're going to be more of the Wix operation. Now, even if you say Wix is 1% or under 1% of the whole web and WordPress is 33%.
They're making more money.
They're making more money. Yeah. And Shopify, look at them. What the share price at the moment, Shopify, $750 a share.
Yes.
Yeah.
Highly profitable. All right, then. I think it's been a great discussion. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Always love talking to you guys.
Coming back on the show. I think we've covered some interesting stuff for our listeners and viewers. If not, come back and tell us. But I thought we did cover some great stuff. We'll be back next week with another great guest. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.